And we are back for another edition of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. It's Jonathan Howe alongside Travis Cunningham for episode, what are we on, 57, if I got that right?
Yep.
A-
Oh, man.
And do we have it? Do you have a driver for 57?
Yeah. Murray Nichols.
Ooh,
Clinton retired.
yep.
The Hamilton Hotshot retired, so his dad had to come out of retirement, and 57 Murray Nichols is back on the Speedway from time to time.
All right. I like that. I was going to go with Charlie Sandercock personally, but
Ooh, can't leave out Kyle Larson when he runs the Paul Silva 57. And one I thought of, I know he ran modified back in the day. He also ran pavement. Lee Jerome was 57. That's an old timer one. That's all I got.
nice. All right. Let's dive right into this past weekend's action. No racing from Ohsweken Speedway, which, of course, Ohsweken Speedway and Bicknell Racing Products present this show every week. And don't forget to buy your tickets for Merrittville Speedway from our friends at Vansicle Pet Value or Lundy's Lane Pet Value in St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, respectively. Jumping into the weekend, like I say, Ohsweken rained out, so you guys didn't have any action. You were not on the mic. I was also not on the mic Friday night at Ransomville, but we will talk to Stephen Petty later in the show, who is the weekly announcer at Ransomville Speedway, the Big R, and caught my go-karting debut. So we'll talk to him a little bit about that. And let's just launch right into it. The Gary Cunningham Memorial from Merrittville Speedway. How about we save the actual Gary Cunningham for afterwards? Let's run through the rest of the classes because I do want to spend some time on the sprint cars in the Southern Ontario sprints because I thought that was a really good show, and so did the race fans who voted it the race of the night over on Merrittville's socials. The Corpac Merchandising 358 modifieds. Obviously, there's some big stories out of the 358 mods. We'll get to those, but let's talk about the winner first and foremost because he's also going to be a guest on the show later on. Todd Gordon with the big win over Brad Rouse, Luke Carlton, Fred Carlton, and Pete Bicknell. Todd started fourth, quickly jumped out to the lead, and really never looked back.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I was busy loading up after the feature, getting stuff, checking the car over, seeing what was going on. So I didn't catch a lap of the modified feature. Not going to lie. But I did hear a car coming down the pits, a little bit higher RPM than normal. And it was about the time after that the feature would be over. And I looked over and it was Todd Gordon. I was like, OMG, Todd Gordon won. And I instantly became really happy. And yeah, now he's a guest on the show. Tune in for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an easy one to get behind and cheer for it. Todd was super happy to be back in Victory Lane, and a guy who deserves it, and breaks a really long winning streak while he's at it. So I'm here for that. I always like that story. Somebody who followed up some bad luck over the last couple of weeks actually called us out in Victory Lane. I don't know if you heard this, Travis, but we got called out by Pete Reed.
Oh my!
Saying that. Maybe we put the hex on him since his appearance on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast has had some bad luck, some bad runs at Merrittville. No more. He's back in Victory Lane. He won the Hoosier Stocks on Saturday night.
How rude, Pete. I haven't said hi to him Saturday and stuff. Man. Although we have done that to a couple people, but we've also had people that have like won big stuff right afterwards that would have been sweet to talk to them also. So we've had it go both ways, Pete. It's just kind of, I don't think it's us. It's just racing gods. I'd blame them more than us.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Can't totally blame us all the time.
Yeah,
right?
we're not gods yet, Pete. Come on. Can't blame us.
We don't have that much power.
No.
Although I've done my fair share of announcer jinxes at the racetrack.
Well, that's just everybody. That's not just you. That's every announcer in physical existence. My mom points that out all the time. She is she will always point out the announcer jinx. And it happens in Cup all the way to Chili Bowl. Every dirt race you watch, every pavement race you watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's real.
It's 1000% real, and I always feel super guilty about it. So but you gotta call him, and you gotta shout out the good runs when you see him. Pete held off Dave Bailey, who was hard charging towards the front from 13th up 11 spots to finish second. Zach Bleach third. Jason Fontaine with another solid run in fourth, and Mark Fawcett ended up fifth in that one. Another quality run from the Hoosier Stocks. I really enjoy that class.
Same
They
Z's.
just put on such a good show. Just every time. It's always such a good show, and there's so many good guys who can win every single week. Somebody who has been winning pretty much every single week at Merrittville in the mod lights. Brent Bigelow started 9th, finished first, caught Josh Slater with about, I'm gonna say, 2 laps to go made the move to win it, and Josh, giving it everything he had to try to get the lead back, absolutely sailed it into one, stood on it, spun it out, did a full 360 in it, and was hung on to second for a little bit, but then tried the same move into 3 and 4 and lost it once again. And Brent Bigelow ends up getting the win over RJ Pitts, Sean F. Toddy, Tyler Winger, and Chris Watson rounded out your top 5.
Sounds like new daddy Josh got tired because he was staying up a little bit too late. Change with the baby, maybe. Which I saw him in.
Are you trying to bust him? I think this I detect a little hint of sarcasm there.
Yeah, because I talked to him before the race, and I tell him how I love making fun of him. So I made fun of him again for 2 laps to go, and he got him.
I will give a shout out to one of his buddies in, I guess, kind of partners in the Savage Race Chassis brand, uh, Dan Curving. Had lots of love for the show. Talked to
Yep,
Dan for a hot
I
minute,
saw him too.
and hopefully he will be a guest on the show in the not too distant future, especially if he can get a win under his belt, as that 88 seems to be getting a little bit better every single week in the old mod lights. I also want to give a shout out to Daryl Fairway. And for everybody asking, hopefully you went and bugged Travis for stickers because I don't have any left. I don't know if Travis has any left, but okay.
I do. But I told you just to buy some off
I
Ted. Just go see him
know.
in
I
his
will go
office.
and order some more. But people
Oh,
wants the stickers. We're gonna get the stickers for
yeah.
you. I think Randy Allway was another guy asking me for some stickers. So I will go and get some more stickers off Ted in the not too distant future here.
I'll give you some, and I'll give you the sales pit, or we'll split it if you
Perfect.
sell them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind
There
of
you
how
go.
we do it anyways, right? So
Yeah.
um
Well, no, you've already made all your money off them,
I
technically.
have. I
Now you
sold
can
my
make
half.
mine by selling mine.
So go bug Travis
You can
if
make half of
if
mine.
you're going to be
Or,
in
yeah,
the
bug me.
Oshweekend pits anytime soon.
But I have planned on giving you some
Yes.
to sell, and then just give me a little. You can have
I
some.
know. Well, I got to look into merch too one of these days. One of these days we'll start selling t-shirts.
I know. Merch is
It is
tougher. Merch is a little bit more of a bigger deal than
it's a little bit
stickers.
more of a commitment, that is for sure, but we'll see.
I think you just got to do one batch, maybe, because you can always sell one
Yeah.
batch. That's just,
I also
yeah.
want to give a shout
I
out.
know.
I mean, maybe I'll save this for the Southern Ontario Sprints, but uh, everybody who's putting out merch, if you make your stuff look vintage, I got a lot of time for it and a lot of love for it. There was one shirt I caught that I had to go back and look up, and it was actually from 2021 for this driver. Bailey Hurd's got some sick merch. I just got to give the guy a shout out.
I have that
I
shirt.
saw it out in the crowd. I don't know who it was that was wearing it, but they had one on, and I was like, that looks so cool. It almost looks like a vintage sprint car T-shirt. It's a little bit modern, a
The
little
white
bit
one.
vintage, and yeah, make your stuff look a little old school. It's in right now, guys. That's all I would say about
They
designs.
have versions of that shirt where they tie dyed it
Oh,
themselves.
sick. Now that's how I get my fiance Kyra on board. If it's tie dye, she loves it. So you want to get somebody spending some money on t-shirts, tie dye your stuff, and I'm sure I'll end up buying it. Anyway, so we should move on to the Van Sickle Pet Value PV on the lane 4 cylinders before we get to the Southern Ontario Sprints. Alex Riley, our pal from a couple weeks ago, joined the show. He ended up
Didn't jinx
winning it
him.
for his second win of the season. I believe that makes him the only driver to have repeated in the 4 cylinders at Merrittville this year so far. He also won on Father's Day at Humberstone, so pretty good little run that Alex Riley's on right now. He wins it over Kyle Rothwell, who was all over the place to start that race. I think spun or was involved in an accident on lap 1, tried to diagnose the car, spun it again under caution, basically tried to ride the dirt wall in 3 and 4 in Merrittville, then drove back up through the field and ended up in P2. Austin Worcester third, Olivier Larocque fourth, and Cole Hardy rounding out your top 5.
Can you believe that's the first repeat winner at Merrittville in the mini stocks?
I can, but I also can't because, I mean,
Think about it. If we were at the banquet and I would say, "Hey, Jonathan, I'm going to bet you $100 that almost in July is the first time we're going to see a repeat winner in the mini stocks," you would say, "Heck yeah, I'm taking that," based off last year and maybe
yeah,
even years past.
I
That's
mean, it does
pretty.
make sense with.
I got my wish because I wanted more winners in that.
I mean, I'm trying to think. I think of all the. I think our top 5 are everybody who's won a race so far this year, right? Like I'm looking at it. Alex has 2. I'm pretty sure Kyle Rothwell picked up one so far. Austin Worshow's got one. Olivier Lerock's got one. Cole Hardy's got one. That's your top five. Trying to think if anybody else has Clinton Barrick won yet. I'm not sure.
No, he won.
I think I should probably see how many actual races there've been for the mini stocks, and that would probably tell me. But I'm pretty sure.
It's just crazy that this first double.
Yeah, it's been really impressive to start the year. The parity in the four cylinders is here, especially after a year where we had some serious dominance out of Tyler LaFontaine last year. This year, it's all kind of balancing out, and I can confirm that those are the only five winners this year so far. So Riley got two, Goldhardy won, Worcester won, Larock won, and Rothwell has one as well, and they are first, second, third, fourth, and sixth in points. John Lubeck, the only one not with a win so far, but is in the fifth spot in points. For anybody who wants to know that, let's talk about the Gary Cunningham Memorial. The Southern Ontario Sprints made their new debut with this latest edition of the tour at Merrittville Speedway after their debut was supposed to be at the Spring Sizzler that got rained out. Ryan Turner gets the big win over Mike Bowman, DJ Christie, Matt Farnham, and Bailey Hurd. Your top five. Bailey crossed the line backwards, basically wall grinding in a almost like a 50-50, like a skateboarder would be very proud of his maneuver, but I'm sure they didn't really appreciate all the extra work that they have to do on the car because of that wild one. DJ Christie, very strong run to get up in the top three late in that one. Mike Bowman with a great drive from sixth to second in one of his, I think that might have been his very first debut in the 360s
At
at
Merrittville?
Merrittville.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that was his 360 debut. I could be wrong on that, but
You
at
are
least
not?
definitely this year. No, that's right. I got this. And Ryan Turner started from pole after winning his heat from fourth position. So I mean, Turner just really maximized the night. Like this was Ryan Turner's night. Like you won your heat, which is great, but you also won it from fourth. So the passing points were critical, and that went in his favor to get him up on the pole. And he just really never looked back. Bailey Hurd did have the lead for, I'm going to say, the first third of the race, but Ryan Turner just really, really impressive. That was, I think, as strong of a run as he's had in that 15 Nitro 54 ride since he's jumped in it. So pretty impressive stuff.
I wouldn't go that far. He won the Nationals in it, but maybe at Merrittville, yes.
I would, but did he dominate the Nationals like that?
Kind of. I don't know. He
I
won it, but yeah, he definitely. He even said on Facebook during the day that that one had slipped away from him a few times, and he was going to win it. And or he didn't say he was going to. He said he wanted to, and he was really going to try, and he did.
Yeah, and one of his crew guys also used to work with your dad, correct?
Al Haringa, yep, he was. Yep, apprentice there, and taught him about engines. He ended up being a real good fabricator. And now he has a business that fixes sprint car frames. He actually fixed Nick Sheridan's frame after South Buxton earlier in the year. This now, and he's always fixing cars for the Nitro guys. And yeah, Al Haringa, he's a wicked
Nice,
fabricator. Like yeah, intense and a wicked
nice.
guy.
And talk about your night. You accomplished both of your goals for the night, which was to what? You wanted to finish top 10 and you wanted to make the show, and you did both of those.
Well, no, if I didn't make the show, I'd be on suicide watch. But like, yeah, 24. Like, because the way it'd been, there was like 10 cars or 11 cars at Buxton, and then 19 at Brighton. So then we got 24 at Merrittville for the SOS this year. So what's that? Five more? Yeah, five
Mhm.
more than their best. And yeah, that's all I wanted was the full field. And maybe next year we can work and even build off that. And because the track's always slick, and it's like you can barely even count it as a night on your motor. Like I checked all my valves, none of them moved, and like you just barely even 3/4 throttle for most of it. Like even
Yeah,
through hot laps the whole time, it was slick, so I was like spinning the whole way. I was way too slick in hot laps. But yeah, back to like Bailey, I was bummed for him because I was pumped that I saw him leading, and like, man, is this little open trailer gang friggin' shed shop gonna win the GC Memorial? Like I was pretty, and then yeah, tough to see him on the. I'm not gonna lie, I did tell him like there was the tiny little part of me that was hoping he was on this side of the start finish line when I was coming to the line. Just my own personal. Sorry, I love you, but Yeah, he did, but then he ended up fifth and got $650, and that was one of the bigger position jumps from all the lap sponsors. That one was an extra 150, so that's
Hmm.
gonna that's the front axle for him, which I saw snapped in half, and I went and looked at it, and it was definitely a lot of bolt-on stuff. Yeah, tough hit. I've been in there
Yeah.
in the Merrittville moat, which isn't quite as bad as it used to be, but if you get in that front stress wall, it tears stuff up in a modified or a sprint car. That's a for sure. I've been in there in a sprint car too. Man, I've been in a modified and a sprint car. I know all about that front wall.
Yeah, well, it definitely ended up biting Bailey that night and putting a sour note, which what was an otherwise really
Yeah.
impressive night. So,
And then my
shout
night,
out to
I didn't
him.
talk about that really.
Yeah, I was gonna say your night was pretty
Yeah,
good. You ended up ninth. Dylan Westbrook just barely gets you at the end of the night by nose at the stripe for eighth. But
I was too
you,
loose in time trials.
yeah,
Should have had the right rear end way more than I did. I'm just gonna go to Merrittville, and then if it's ever heavy for time trials or hot laps, I'm just gonna send it. And if it's tight, you can hammer through it. But too loose. Ended up fifth to fifth in the heat, and then 14th, and I got to eighth. And then most of the passes were on the first lap though, and then I sniped Alan Downey on one of the restarts, and then the other two passes were just because two people spun out. So once you got rolling, it was kind of hard to pass, and I was gaining on Mitch Brown, and then he hit like the water coming out of four and kind of threw a puddle onto the track, and then he kind of not hit my line perfectly, and that's kind of how D-Dubs got me. He was trying to try really hard to get me, so the track was just really even. You could run the top or the bottom, but like you couldn't really gain on the guy once you got like 5-6 laps into a run. We all kind of evened out.
yeah, and that some ways, like you might think, oh, that's not a great race, but at the same time, I felt like you guys were really fighting it. Like everybody who was trying to make moves had to
It
try
was
that
side by
much harder.
side, but
Yeah,
like yeah,
like
we were trying so hard. It was
yeah,
still
there was
side by
no
side, but
comers
like
and goers. It was just like every position was a
yeah, Sean
constant
Evans was
battle.
beside me the entire race, and then it switched to
Yeah,
D Dubs. Like
yeah.
literally the whole race, I had Sean Evans beside me. Just we were beside each other the whole time, and then Brown and someone else were beside each other in front of us, and then yeah, it's basically how it went.
Yep. And it was a great night. Your lap sponsors all really made it a special night. Largest purse in Southern Ontario sprint history, I'm pretty
Yeah, that's
sure. Was
pretty
that the
cool.
confirmation? $14,300
Yeah,
total on the line. And there was also one extra little surprise kicked in by your mom. I don't know if you want to shout her out for that.
yeah. She didn't tell. She told Pete before the night, but like drivers couldn't know about it because it was $200 more for 13th place finisher, and she did it because it's been 13 years since we've lost my dad. So yep, 13th place finisher got 200 extra bucks, and that was Liam Martin. So she was worried about like yeah, $50 isn't going to be, but I don't know, $200 someone might drop from 12th to 13th. So yeah, she didn't
Hmm.
want the drivers knowing about that, so she told Pete, and yeah, Liam Martin got it.
And who ended up getting our bonus? I don't know
Ryan
if I
Turner.
even. Yes, it was Turner that got the extra money from the Southern Ontario Dirt Show fastest lap
Jamie
bonus.
Turner got the other fastest lap between the bottom half, and then
Hmm.
Sheridan got he got the
Yeah, nice. All in all, very successful night on Saturday night at Maryville. Doubleheader weekend for us this weekend between Saturday night, July 1st, Canada Day, schools up for summer weekend, and then also Wreckfest Junior rescheduled to July 2nd. The folks from Van Sickle Pet Value and PV on the Lane aren't just fans of your favorite four-legged friends, they are race fans too. That's why Jeff and Rhonda Riley, as well as their staff, have teamed up with Merrittville Speedway to make your race day experience more convenient. Race fans can now pick up tickets for race nights while grabbing the highest quality food, treats, toys, and accessories for their pets from the St. Catharines and Niagara Falls locations. Each grandstand ticket will also have a voucher that can be used in-store for a free pet bath at their dog wash stations. Drivers and crew members can also skip the line by purchasing pit passes in-store, giving them more time to get their rides ready for Saturday nights. Check out Van Sickle Pet Value across from Best Buy and Walmart on 4th Avenue in St. Catharines, and PV on the Lane at the corner of Kayla Road and Lundy's Lane, Highway 20. It's a
oh
jam-packed weekend in general in Southern Ontario because you guys are back on Friday night at Ash Weekend, right?
Friday Ash weekend,
And
Sunday at Humberstone.
yep, Humberstone on Sunday. So between Oshweekend, Maryville again Sunday afternoon, and Sunday night at Humberstone, you really don't even have to drive further than an hour or two, depending on where you are in Southern Ontario, to watch racing all weekend long. It's going to be a blast, and I'm
Canada Day
looking
weekend
forward to it.
already.
My
One we
favorite
forgot
weekend
to
of the
talk
year.
about. about Merrittville is how the weather like missed the track and split us on both sides.
Oh, it was perfect. Insanely
Yeah,
perfect. The whole
because we
day,
were
I'm like, we're gonna show up, we're gonna unload, and we're gonna get heats done, and then it's gonna start raining right before intermission. I was dreading it the whole time, and then I
yeah,
kept watching the radar while I was on air on Hits FM, and it kept looking better
that
and
big
better and
blob
better.
like never stopped, and then it kind of broke up, and then it broke up. Like it never kept moving.
Mhm.
It was supposed to keep coming, and then it stopped, and then it broke up, and
Yeah,
then
I'll stay
parts
to
of
the
the
south.
rain skipped both. Like you could see it raining off down that road down the side there, but I thought it was cool. I was just and we like it was just us, Southern Ontario Motor Speedway and Sauble Speedway, and we were the only three tracks in the Northeast really to get in
Yeah, pretty much
on that
everywhere was
Saturday.
canceled. It was wild.
Yeah,
Um, So that kind of wraps up our local sprint car racing stuff. What about the ESS or sorry, ESS Speed Week, I should say. Break
yeah,
that one down for us because we were on the eve of that.
yep. Starting tonight. They're at Can-Am tonight. We're recording this on Wednesday night. And then Thursday will be Utica Rome. Friday will be Brewerton. And then Saturday will be Fulton. That's I kind of want to get to Fulton and make it a 3-day weekend, but I don't know if I can find any crew to go with me. But it's kind of my only last chance to get to Fulton where I don't have something else scheduled. And I just always wanted to run this week. Like maybe next year I'll do it. Next year I've been thinking of doing the whole series just to say I've done it.
Hmm.
And then you know what I mean? 'Cause I've been
Yeah.
having a lot of fun running those races. But I've always wanted to do this week in particular. But yeah, this year's not the year. But yeah, it's 4 races in a quick little. Can Am's the farthest one away. If it was Brewerton, Utica, and Fulton, those 3 are like within 40 minutes of each other. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a fun little deal. And yeah, they just raced at Cornwall. They were supposed to be at Brockville. They got rained out. One of the ones that bit the dust from the rain. And then Cornwall, Dylan Swiernick won that one. Panther Framework represent. Another winner there. And yeah, he's third in points. Don is second. And who's leading the points? Jordan Poirier, obviously.
Who else?
Mm-hmm.
Over on the Super Dirt Car Series schedule, 2 big shows coming up next week. Monday, July 3rd from Land of Legends in Canandaigua, the Stars and Stripes race, and then the Battle of the Fairgrounds Part 2 from Orange County Fair Speedway. That is on Wednesday, July 5th. So the Super Dirt Car Series back in action with 2 big ones. And how are you handicapping them? What are you expecting from the Super Dirt Car Series? Do you have any bold predictions about who's going to be where?
Oh, not really. Still the Matt and Matt show.
Mhm.
Both those tracks Matt's pretty good at. He's either really good at Canandaigua or maybe not so good. No in between, but Matt Shepard's good at both, that's for sure. And
Mhm.
hard to get both those guys. Max McLaughlin got his first win last year, like Super Car Series points win. He had won somewhere else non-points before, but that was his first points win last year at Land of Legends, which is Canandaigua to me. And yeah, Orange County. That one's yeah. Anything can happen there. But although Shepard and Williamson are really fast,
Nice.
and I don't know who's going, but yeah,
Well, I will point out too that if you're interested in following the Super Dirt Car series and getting out to any races, we are only a couple of weeks away from ones that you can kind of circle on the calendar, like Weed Sport coming up July 16th. That's a Sunday night, the Hall of Fame 100, which you and I think we've been talking about going to that one, haven't we? There's some
we
talk of us going
probably
out to
could.
that.
Cause I think I have the week off after that. Like I race that Friday and then nothing else going on, or maybe Brighton the Saturday as well, and then I got like 2 weeks.
The only
Like
thing
the
is we
next week
were
I
also
got
talking
nothing.
about going to the Honda Indy, and that is the same day as that.
Ooh,
So
I
we'll have
think
to
we're gonna
see.
have to pick Super Dirt Series on that one.
Well, you say that, but I've got it in the plans to go to Drummondville and Brockville coming up Monday, July 31st, Tuesday, August 1st, and Wednesday, August 2nd. 3 Super Dirt Car Series events north of the border. We are just about a month away from those big events. So
Those are a commitment. Bring
it's a
your tent.
commitment, but I think I can make it work.
Which ones are they?
Drummondville, so back-to-back races in Drummondville and then Brockville on the Wednesday. Brockville for sure. I think I'm gonna try to make work, and for the Canadian
I've been there.
Classic.
Drummondville is one of the ones I've never been to.
That's Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's what I'm trying to. We'll see.
That one's far.
Still working on how that's going to play out just yet, but we'll keep you posted and
Brockville's
hopefully.
only 4 hours, four and a bit.
Hmm.
So
I think Drummondville's like
yeah,
6, something like that. So,
plus
but I do have some halfway homes that I can report to in Ottawa and crash on some couches to make it
nice.
doable. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Short track super sprints, or sorry,
Super
I keep
series.
saying super sprints, super series. Getting tired here today. Short track super series. Big money on the line coming up this week.
Yep, Fonda Sunday night. So regular show Fonda Saturday, and then Sunday I think it's 10 grand to win. And on Flow Racing, pretty sure Stuart Friesen will be there for that one, and I know Williamson's going for that one as well, and Shepard will be there. And if you have Flow Racing, I'd be tuning into that because I know I'll be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be. I've been really impressed with the short track super series. They've been putting on some pretty good shows this far.
Yep. Uh, yeah, both series have been putting on good shows, but I kind of like the motor rules a little bit better on the short track super series. I don't know. I think big blocks. A lot of people love them, but I know they're a little bit harder to work on and stuff. Parts are a little bit harder to get for them and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Is it time to go? Probably not. Big blocks are still doing good too, but I prefer open small blocks. That's just me.
Yeah, says the engine builder. That's
Yeah.
that's that's a important perspective to point out.
I would big block, big trouble. That's what I always say.
Yeah, well,
The parts are heavier and everything. It's just harder to. A lot of the big blocks have a lot more trouble. I remember the last race I watched. There was at least two or three that went down. So
oy, oy, that's
yep,
expensive. The
yep,
sport is expensive in general. Even go karting is expensive. As I found out Thursday night, uh,
yes.
got into the dirt for the very first time at Ransomville, the Little R. Last Thursday, I made my debut in the adult fun class. Big shout out to David Shido who put the cart together and started it out for me. Um, the number 97 got some video content on the way from that. Once I get a chance to put it all together here, it's been a kind of crazy week since the race. And big shout out as well to Ryan Susi, who really got the ball rolling on that one. And I'm hoping that maybe I'll get out to some more go karting events. And Travis, I'm really trying to figure out how I'm going to put together a team. I think I want to go dirt racing in the go karts at Merrittville. And there's just so many headaches to
How
already think
long
about.
until you spun out? Because I know you spun out a few times.
So I made it through. I made it through my practice, which was I think like 3 or 4 laps without spinning.
Mm-hmm.
But I was pretty much driving it. I was overdriving this thing for sure.
Like I told you not to.
Like I turned it in, and I was just dead sideways with the ass end hanging out the whole time. My steering wheel going to the
Like I
right, and
told
I'm
you not
turning
to.
left. And yeah, no, that was not the way to do it. I was like, oh, it's dirt. I gotta turn left or turn right to go left. It's just
Not
like
on go
cars.
karts.
That's how they taught me to do it. No. So then in the practice was really quick. We did not get a lot of time, so I was just happy that I fit in the cart and that everything felt good and that I could get around the track without spinning. So I kind of tried to push it a little bit more in my heat. There was only 2 of us that actually made it out to the heat because I think a couple of the other fun class guys were having problems with their cars and their motors and stuff. So only 2 of us showed up for the heat. I obviously finished second of 2 there. I think I spun twice in the heat because I was really just pushing it and just going I throttled down the whole corner, and that's just not what you do in a go kart on the dirt, as I found out. But the other thing is that I noticed it just felt loose. Like I wasn't even trying to bring that butt end around; it just felt loose. So David made some changes. He I guess he probably took a little bit of gear out. I'm still like kind of learning
Mm-hmm.
the terminology. So he took gear out because then that would make the throttle a little less responsive, right? Am I saying that the right
Mm-hmm.
way? So
Yeah.
by making the throttle a little less responsive, I was not mashing the gas and just spinning tires. There was almost like a gradual pickup of RPMs, and that seemed to suit my driving style a little bit more. I also figured out how to back the corners up a bit more And then all of a sudden, I was just turning the wheel like just a little bit to the left, and like the butt end was coming around, but it wasn't coming around the same amount, and I wasn't having to turn back to the right to correct. So by the end of the night, I kind of figured it out. I made a pass. I ended up finishing second of 5 cars that made it out for the fun class. So I will consider that a successful night, all things considered.
I did as well.
So now I'm hooked though, and I want to buy a go
And I
kart.
saw the video. You must have picked your 2 best laps you ran all night because you were looking pretty good in those 2 laps I saw you run on that story.
Oh, I definitely made sure to put the one where I'm going forward and not spinning out backwards in the video. So yeah, but there'll be some more clips that come out, and you can see just how loose I was driving it, and it was a little bit all over the place. But I figured it out by the end of the night, and made me faster. I felt like on Sunday when I got back to the pavement, so that was cool too.
Right.
Picked up another podium. Got another medal. All right, there we go.
Another guy wants to kill you.
Look, you know what? Rubbin's racing, but
You gotta
no, it
start
was.
bringing your boxing gloves.
You know what? I made some accidental contact when two
Oh,
cars were
now you sound
bumping
like
off each other in
Chastain.
front of me, and
You gonna bring a watermelon next week?
no, I won't
Smash it
bring a
when you win?
watermelon. I don't know. I just raced with a bunch of people on a road course who think it's Formula One and go karts, and I'm like, they put fenders on them for a reason. So
You're definitely allowed to nudge a little bit as long as it's just a little touch in the tuchus.
I'm gonna say this: I gave out everything that I would also expect to receive myself.
Perfect.
I didn't dive bomb anybody, which is my number one pet peeve in go karting. So as long as you're not dive bombing me, I'll race you as clean as I possibly can. But if I'm on the brakes, no throttle in it, and I'm still catching you to the point where I can give you a little love tap, you're probably going to get through the corner a little bit faster.
I would agree.
So, anyways, not that anybody from Canadian Mini Indy actually listens to this podcast, but if they do, we'll see. Uh,
Fight.
okay, we should probably get into
Ugh,
the
no.
topic that has been going around the dirt world a lot.
No.
And I think I'm just going to put a disclaimer out here first and foremost, based on some people who pay the bills on the show, some people who we all have direct, not just contact with, but friendships, relationships with. Um, there's not much to be said that hasn't already been said by other people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you haven't heard, there were some suspensions handed out from Merrittville Speedway after a tire test was done following the Brian Stevenson Memorial, and the number 6 of Matt Williamson, the 37S of Gary Lindbergh, and the 3RS of Dalton Slack were deemed to have failed, or at least not meet the Hoosier tire benchmark, and thus there have been some penalties and suspensions related to that. And to the point that I didn't even get any official confirmation about them. They were kind of supposed to stay under wraps until some teams decided to share their displeasure on the internet, which is more than acceptable in my eyes. If that's the way they want to go about it, I understand it. Um, I'm going to speak first, not on behalf of Merrittville Speedway, but from the track standpoint. I'm going to say that if you're going to do a tire test and the results come back that there is a failure, then you have to follow the protocol, which Merrittville did. So I don't think, and Matt Williamson has even pointed this out, there's nothing that Merrittville Speedway did wrong in any of this situation. So it's just the way the ruling worked, and that's how it's played out. And I don't think, I just don't want to see any real hate or anything like that for Merrittville, because I just think if we've got rules, we should follow them, and we should work on them, and that's just what happened. And as far as that goes, so it's a tricky situation to be in, but at the end of the day, Merrittville Speedway did what they were supposed to do. They followed their protocols, and that was that, and that's fine with me on my end. I am gonna say though, I don't care about doping tires in the slightest. I literally could not care any more or any less as long as it ends up with a good product on the racetrack. Um, that's my stance on it. I think baseball was better with steroids. For the amount of from the amount of people that I've talked to, there's not even necessarily and always an advantage to doping tires necessarily. So
Mm.
I I just think that who cares? And if it was me and my decision, that's something I wouldn't bother testing for because you can't. It doesn't seem like you can get a true yes or no, black or white answer on anything that's wrong with a specific tire. So it just means that it didn't meet a Hoosier tire benchmark. What is that benchmark? How is it updated? All that sort of stuff. There's just too much gray area for me. So if it was me, I just wouldn't bother testing.
Yeah, you basically said my thoughts on it as well. Uh, just tough situation all around, like you say. Friends with all of them involved. I know Bob Slack himself said he swore on my dad's grave that he wasn't doping tires. But I know, like, if they're going to Blue Ridge Labs with, I did learn this week that they're not ISO certified. And, like, leave Merrittville tire doping scandal out of it and just go back to all the dirt late model ones that were back at Eldora a few years ago involving Scott Bloomquist and I think Chris Ferguson and a few others. And there's been one even just this year with James McFadden, and there's been other ones like Shane Pecor.
USAC.
Yep, USAC versus that's a bigger one. We'll get into that one later. But like Shane Pecor got nabbed, Stefan LaFrance got nabbed locally. But then the use that was this was last year, and it involved Blue Ridge Labs. Okay, and then so Dirt Car opened up a new wingless sprint car division to, I don't want to say compete with USAC, but just to give more races to the people or whatever. But then I forget which one, but one of them threw out a bunch of people for tire doping, and they used the Blue Ridge Labs. But then they all the non-wing guys appealed it, and then they decided to use another lab, and then that lab came back and it was all good and stuff. And then ended up, I think they all got their points back and everything, and then that's how that one ended up. So the fact that Blue Ridge isn't ISO and they put people's livelihoods on the line and reputations of major race car drivers, and just the fact that they've been proved having a false positive kind of, I don't know. It's just like you said, it's just such a gray area that it's not so hard to have such a black and white thing that, to my point, like, yeah, I wouldn't, like, I'm a low buck racer and I wouldn't mind to be able to slap a little tire dope on my right rear and bring it back to life instead of going to buy a new one. So,
So beyond preserving tire life, explain to the listeners who might not be familiar with tire doping and all the ways that you can do it. You don't have to go through all of them, but just what are the advantages of tire doping, and is it really something that the racing community should be concerned about?
well, I can say myself, I did dope my tires when I, like, not all the time, but I have tried it because I was a go karter and I have, like, go karting is tire dope. Like, the whole thing is the tires. It's all about what you put on the tires. The go kart is literally tire dope, and then you have a cart and a steering wheel as well. But anyway, so yeah, I tried to modify it. Like, it's not like a you're gonna go from like 14th to a win because you doped your tires. Like, that is not, like, I guarantee you Matt Williamson could take a set of like unsiped, I don't want to say unground, but you can let him grind them, but you could unsipe him. He's still going to win at Merrittville with like half the tire prep he goes with, like, legally. But yeah, I don't personally think it's like something that's going to totally set you over the edge or anything. Like, to me, it's just going to bring back an older tire,
Hmm.
which is, yeah, that's just me. I don't know. I hate that this happened. Like, like I say, it's all my friends. Not even just that, the fact that it's all my friends. It's like Merrittville's car count was going so well. There was multiple nights this year with 12 or over 20, right? There was a 21, there was a 20,
Hmm.
there was 18, 19. There
Yep.
was pretty good car count. And then Saturday was 12.
Yeah.
That hurt me to
Yeah.
see. I'm not going to lie.
Which, besides the suspension, there were four
Oh,
regulars who
I
we
know.
would typically expect to see that weren't there anyways. So everybody who's freaking out about car counts, I wouldn't necessarily get that bent out of shape about it just yet.
It hurts. We
But
don't want to see it.
anytime you take a
But
race car off the racetrack, it's a bummer, especially when it's, depending on how you see it, one of them is a co-champion, one is a
yeah.
rising star, and the other one is either a local legend or a villain of the series. And either way, that gets fan interaction and fan engagement, and that's tough to see not on the racetrack. So that's a bummer.
Another thing we
Obviously,
got to say is like how Matt does have the Fulton test out because he went and won Super Dirt Car Series event since then. They do have a tire test out from then, so we'll see what happens there. and I know he's got that tire going to a different lab as well. So there's like this story's definitely not over either.
Was that the
I
Super
don't know.
Dirt Car series, or was that the Dirt Car 358?
358.
Yeah, Dirt Car 358 series from Fulton that he won. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's getting tested too. So, I mean, if that doesn't come back positive, then there's definitely going to be more questions than answers. Either way,
But like
I think the
Slack's not coming back. That sucks.
yeah,
If you're
Randy
gonna lose
Slack
cars.
put it out on Twitter that the Slack entries will not be back at Merrittville over this incident. I know the G-Force guys are trying to get Andrew Sittler on to talk about what the future of the 37S is going to be at the racetrack, and then we'll see what happens with Matt. But either way, it's just a bummer that this situation happened. No
Oh
matter
yeah.
how it works out, there's going to be an asterisk on this season at Merrittville, because if it's true that there's uh, tire doping, then you have to question legitimacy of the Sixes wins. If there isn't, then you have to wonder why these guys were suspended before an appeal process. Like, there's just so many things that take away from what was an amazing season, and I don't want it to be
I
changed or
just
ruined.
can't see them doping for a local race, but to
Yeah.
put their reputations like that on the line. Well, it was a bigger night that night, but for a normal regular Saturday night. But
Hmm.
another thing I want to say, like the fact that this happened on the Gary Cunningham Memorial, this is in my opinion, like the biggest like drama event at Merrittville since the first Gary Cunningham Memorial ever, which didn't happen in the sprint car race, but that year, they had to suspect that we almost talked about this when we had Mike on the show, but I said let's not touch on it. But we're going to touch on it now. Like the very first Cunningham Memorial, after the last checkered flag has fallen, I realized that they were getting ready. Pete's car is about to go on the track, and then I've realized, like the week before, they had this thing that Mike Bowman had traction control. Okay,
Hmm.
and then, so the week before the Gary Cunningham Memorial, Mike finished fifth, and they confiscated rev boxes and sent him back to MSD, and they all came back good. So then Mike's car did make this noise back then. That's a for sure. But yeah, so then it was just kind of like anyway. But he said he was doing it with his foot. So they were still it wasn't good enough. So then after the race, they made him. I think they made him put his carburetor on and his throttle linkage on the 42, and then he had to take Pete's car out and prove that he could make the exact same sound. And like that was the tech, and it was still one of the craziest things I've ever seen to this day. And yeah, he went out there and drove Pete's car and made the exact same sound that his car was making. And like the whole pits went nuts. And that was the first Cunningham Memorial ever. And the fact that this happened on this one is just all the crazy stuff happens on our race, man.
Really does, apparently. It's either like you guys get rained out or you get a crazy
Well, that's
story.
twice out of 10. But
Yeah.
so we're batting 20% on crazy stuff. But that's just two stories that come from the Cunningham Memorial now that, yeah.
Yeah.
Drama
Indeed, and I'm sure there's going to be more ways that it plays out. But with all that said, let's talk to this week's feature winner from Merrittville Speedway in the modifieds, Todd Gordon. He's going to join the show next on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. The Southern Ontario Dirt Show is brought to you by Ohsweken Speedway, Southern Ontario's home for Friday night excitement. For over 25 years, Ohsweken Speedway has promoted and played host to sprint car racing with a new season of family-friendly events on the horizon and set to begin May 19th. Catch our own Travis Cunningham as he races weekly in the 360 division each Friday night in pursuit of a season-long championship. The Friday night lineups are rounded out by crate sprints, thunderstocks, and mini-stock divisions as well. In addition to weekly racing, Ohsweken Speedway will also hold several marquee events for the Southern Ontario Sprints, the Action Sprint Tour in their West Series and National Series, as well as a visit from Canada's premier stock car series, the NASCAR Pinty Series on August 14th and 15th for their only stop on dirt. Mark your calendars as the 3/8 mile dirt track located in Ohsweken, Ontario welcomes drivers from across the country and beyond for the 19th running of the Canadian Sprint Car Nationals, which is scheduled for September 16th. To keep up to date with the latest news from the track, be sure to find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For track information on policies, admissions, directions, and more, be sure to visit ohswekenspeedway.ca. That's OHSWEKEN Speedway.ca. Ohsweken Speedway, your home for Friday night excitement. And joining us now on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast, last week's winner from Merrittville in the modifieds, Todd Gordon. Todd, thanks for joining the show, and how you doing tonight?
No, not too bad, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to come on out and be a part of this. And I think this is one we should probably start from the very beginning because you and your family have a pretty rich history when it comes to racing and being on the dirt. So just talk to us about, I guess, how you got your start in racing and growing up with your family.
My dad raced forever. My mom was a scorer for over 30 some odd years at Merrittville and Ransomville. She actually scored all over the place. She's done Syracuse and everything else that. Just got involved with it because of my father and basically followed in his footsteps.
Yeah, that's what I like. Give us like talk about your dad racing back in the day. I kind of wanted to have him on too, but he said no. But yeah, talk about all the races with your dad. Any real good stories you can remember, or like one
Uh,
that sticks out?
just being there for his first feature win that I can remember, I think it was 80 or 82. He basically blew up coming across the line with Pete Bicknell smashing his back bumper for the whole feature, but he beat him, and that's all it came down to. Then just growing up around the races, helping my dad as much as I could, learning everything that possibly that man could teach me, which is everything every day, and still continues to this day. We fight a lot, but I think that's a father and son rivalry sort of
Yep.
thing. Again, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. That's for sure. And just basically, like I said, followed in his footsteps. Got my start with street stocks way back when, and just went from there. And then when he decided it was time for him to hang it up, I jumped in the seat right away.
What year was that?
19. Oh boy, thanks, Travis. 98 or 99. I think it was 99.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
99.
still down tubes.
Yep.
I remember
Yep.
that. Number eight
Yes,
EH or
that's correct.
something,
8A.
right?
Yep, with an EH.
8A.
Yeah.
Blue Moon
You,
potatoes still.
you the first year no, and then the second year I had Blue Moon Ted.
Okay.
So you mentioned that you started out in street stocks, and that's something that's still pretty close to both you guys, right? You are a designer and builder of street stock chassis currently to this day, still too, right?
Yeah, that is correct, Jonathan. Yeah, I don't know officially how many I have. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say at least 50, if not more, that are out there, with more being built as we speak, basically. Started off as a whim and just basically has taken off from there, which I'm definitely not complaining. My dad helps me out with the street stocks and stuff like that, but he's more forte is the modified bumpers and bodies is what he more specializes in.
And with the street stocks, what is the process kind of like for building a street stock chassis, and um, especially now that it seems like pretty much the entire field has gone to the Camaro third gen Camaro body styles as opposed to like a metric car, for example.
Yeah, just basically with a Camaro, the only thing that's stock is the front clip, basically to the front firewall. Everything else is manufactured, or shouldn't say manufactured, is fabricated from their back. I build everything myself, other than the front clip. I bend every piece of pipe, cut every piece of pipe. I've never bought a roll cage myself. Recently, I did way back when I started, but now I do everything myself. And there still is some metric cars out there, and I definitely still think that with the right driver and a metric car, it can still win. It's been proven.
Yeah.
Billy Hogue was one of my favorite metric cars ever.
Yeah, I really wish he would come back, but
Me too. That's why I
he's
said it.
got a family now, and things have changed just like everybody else's life.
So, like with your cars, do you have like roll cage bars ready to go, kind of like Bicknell style, with everything ready to rock and roll? Are all the cars the same, or do you have to like more manufacture it to a body kind of style?
No, I try to keep everything very, very similar. I do have a couple different options if somebody wanted it of my own design. It is all my own design with my father. I do keep some main hoops in stock, like like I guess I call it the main part of the cage behind the driver, and then
Yeah,
just because it takes up so much room, and my shop's not that big, so I try to keep it a straight piece of tubing before a bent, just to save room.
gotcha.
For sure. So let's talk about Saturday night and you getting back into victory lane at Merrittville. So first off, how when was the last Merrittville win? Because I'm trying to remember if I had the chance to call one of your victories or not. So
Mm-mm.
remind me, when was your last trip to victory lane?
As far as I can remember, had someone come up to me on Saturday night and ask me the same question. And my buddy Sharpie, he was on the fence. He said either 2011 or 2012, and ended up being 2012. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was actually like a Mother's Day Saturday, like a Saturday before Mother's Day, if I recall.
Nice.
That inspired me because my last
There you go,
win was
Travis. It can
2012
be
as
done.
well. So I'm next. I gotta go. Yeah.
Well, so talk to us about the season thus far in the modifieds from your vantage point. Obviously, things at Merrittville have changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. A lot of guys switching to the W16 motors. We've got the sail panels going. So just talk to us about the evolution of the modifieds and what you've seen from the class this year.
Well, the car that we have two cars. They just haven't got the second car out yet. The second car does have the ERD, I guess you call it the open motor, and it won't have any sail panels. But the way the car that I'm driving right now is running, I'm actually kind of scared to bring the open motor out because I just watch other people with them and they're not very good. So I think the W16 is more a driver friendly for my style of racing. Just makes me, I guess, look a little bit better and feel a lot more comfortable in the car as well.
So what is
Why?
it
Because
that?
you can keep. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead, Travis, because I was going to ask the same
I think
thing.
we were gonna ask the same thing. Yeah. Is it because you can keep more gas to it or something? Just easier to control that way?
Yeah,
Or
there is a lot more throttle control with the Travis. You see me race, I got one switch; it's either on or off,
yeah.
and I'm not very good with the pedal. And I think it's easier to hook it up. I really do.
Yeah, and then this
Yeah.
season has been incredibly competitive. Obviously, when you look at the wins column, there's only one other name besides you who's reached victory lane in the mods, but that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story of just how crazy the division has been and how competitive it really is. So, just I guess uh, uh, you mentioned on Saturday you didn't want to get political, and I'm not going to put you on the spot in terms of that sort of stuff and who's missing and who's not, but just talk about the class of drivers that come to Merrittville Speedway and how difficult it is to never mind win, just to have a competitive run when any given weekend you can feel fast, but you still might only end up being 10th in the race because of just how loaded it is.
I'm definitely going to say that Merrill has the best caliber race car drivers there is possible. We have probably 4 or 5 of the best that can run on a dirt circuit anywhere, with Matt, Gary, Pete himself, Freddie Carlton, Chad Brackman when he shows up. They're all big names and they've all won a lot of races. If you can finish anywhere close to them guys, Scott
Yep.
Woods too is
Did you
another
say
name.
Susie?
You've done your homework for that night.
Yeah, and you Dalton. There's another one. Dalton won his heat at the Victoria 200 last year. That's
I
pretty
forgot
big
about
deal.
Ryan. Ryan is a very Dalton.
Yep.
Yeah, Dalton has come on very strong. He definitely the family's awesome. I can't say nothing bad about them at all, and I never would. Dalton's coming into his own. He's a young kid that's got a lot of potential, and you can see it with his driving style.
Yeah, you guys are all hot shoes out there.
Yeah, speak for yourself. I'm not, but anyways,
Feature winner, Todd Gordon.
yeah.
Hey, exactly. You're a feature winner. There's a big part of the reason why you're on the show. Just in terms of running a modified, though, and I think one of the big things that people mention when it comes to keeping a modified team going is the expense of that particular part of the sport. From your standpoint, is there anything you'd like to see changed? Not necessarily even just at Maryville, but in terms of modified 358 racing across the board that you think could make the sport a little bit more affordable, a little bit more accessible to anybody who's thinking about maybe making the jump up into a different class?
Definitely the again going on back to the W16 has made it more affordable for an average worker and an average race car family. There's not a lot of people that can afford the big motors that are out there. Um, as for changing anything, we run a different style rules at Maryville only because Donnie tried to work with the class and grow the class with the sail panels and allowing alcohol, which again is a big savings. Um, hence to why we're going to put the other car together. So if we want to go somewhere, we can just grab it and go. But for local Saturday night racing, I really don't see any changes need to be made because a sportsman guy can afford to come up and run the modifieds now.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking too. Just because they can buy a motor for 10 grand, just like a crate motor now.
Yeah, I think crate motors are more than that American, Travis. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I haven't bought a motor in a long time, but yeah.
Yeah, it gets pretty crazy, and I kind of want to circle back to the street stocks, just because that's, I think, the division that not necessarily most entertains me, but when you look at the street stock division, obviously it's a healthy class. It's got a very full field, no matter which track you go to throughout Southern Ontario, and obviously you building the cars makes it a big part of that. But what do you think it is about the street stock class that puts on such great racing?
Um, that's a tough call again, Jonathan. I think a lot of it is because people watch the 49, and their main objective is to try to beat Dave Bailey, and he's good. There's no doubt about it. He's very good,
Hmm.
and if you can beat him, again, you've done your homework. Just like if you can beat Matt, you've done your homework. Um, and it's a cheaper class. The cars are a little expensive, but for an average racer, it would probably be the kind of more affordable class to go with, and you still get your high of racing and stuff like that. Your family comes out and watches, and it's an adrenaline rush. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Where am I going? All right. I want to bring it back to one of the darker days of your career because I was sitting like right in front of it at Ransomville Speedway when you had to take the helicopter ride out of the track. Tell us about that night.
I really wish I could tell you lots about it. I don't remember anything
Really?
about it, other than I know there was a wreck earlier in the race. There was a caution and maybe a red flag. I can't
I think
100%
you're right.
remember. Um, I basically remember waking up at ECMC and basically like, what's going on here and where am I? You're looking at all these big hospital lights and you really don't have a clue, and then realize what was going on. I think it might be a good thing that I don't really remember it because I seen the aftermath of the car and there wasn't too much
No.
left of it.
Yeah, because like from what I remember, like you kind of nosed into the end rail at turn one at Ransomville, right? And then I think James hit you. Yeah,
Yeah, that's correct. And James was actually running for my dad at
yeah.
the same time. My dad thought he was a hero. Had two cars and both wrecked in one
I
accident in
know. I
one
remember
race. It
feeling
didn't go
so
too well.
horrible. Oh my god, that always sticks out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That again, it was definitely scary, especially for my dad. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes watching his kid get airlifted to ECMC,
yeah,
but still here to talk about it, so it's good. And probably, like I said, a good thing I don't remember
yeah.
the
And
whole
you were
thing.
able to get back within a couple weeks, right? I think
I think I missed that Saturday and maybe the next one and
that's what I
came
was
back
thinking.
like
That's crazy.
2 weeks
Yeah,
later. It was very quick
yeah.
again. Yeah.
So that was a good recovery for your because, like you said, the car was totally totaled. I remember it was a missing from the front half, in front of the motor, stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
Pretty much the motor was holding the
yeah.
car together.
That's pretty wild. Todd, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Just talk to us about, you mentioned that you got the open motor modified out there, and there's potential to go and run on anywhere else that you want to take that thing. Is there anything on the calendar that's circled? Is there anywhere else that race fans might expect to see you pop up?
I am going to hit Ransomville a couple times here and there. Basically, just hit and miss. When the other car is together, there will be some other people at Merrittville that have inquired about driving it, and don't want to say any names. People do know who they are, and I made commitments to them that they will be allowed to drive it, and my dad will be back out playing with it.
Yay!
It's obviously his
Man,
car, so he'll be having some fun.
he had a great run at Humberstone a couple weeks ago. I didn't even realize it was him in the car because we didn't have the full roster report. And then once the feature started and I figured out it was Flash, I was like, oh my gosh, he started last. He's up to second. I think one more caution. You guys would have been celebrating in victory lane in a vintage race.
Yeah, that car that Darren and Wayne Kendrick put together for my dad, it's awesome. He's having fun, gets his feet wet again. He wishes it wasn't 20 laps. He said he ran out of little. He didn't say talent, but he said he ran out of wind.
I can see
So
that. That's okay.
yeah, it is what it is, and
He's
it'll be fun to watch my dad
yeah.
back racing.
I
Yeah,
got one question for you. So, like the whole time I raced against you, you were not really a number. You were a bunch of letters, triple X, XXX. What was that about? How did you decide on that?
that was for the Vin Diesel movie that came out. That was Triple X. I
That's what
just
I
liked
thought.
it, so I mimicked that and copied that.
And you had that for pretty much the whole time. But you've had a whole bunch of different numbers throughout your career.
Yeah, I started off with 71 with the Dave Late Flame around it way back when. I think it was actually called amateur class back then. And then I graduated to the 8 because my dad was 8. And then the year we started the business, we ran number 1. And I don't really like the number one. I think if you're running number one, you should be number one, like they kind of do in like dirt bike racing and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So we basically, me and Dad sat down, kind of thought of a number that we could put together that not a lot of people had. And at the time, I liked the 28, Dad liked the 28, but Scott Kerwin was running it because he bought a car from somebody and was number 28. And then we heard through the grapevine that he said he was never going to run 28 again. He was going back to a 7. So we jumped on a 28 and have been that ever since.
Nice. All right, well, we'll get you out of here on this one, Todd. This is kind of the question we wrap up every interview with. I'll get the chance to ask it to you now. I'm going to give you one kind of race car, one racetrack to drive at for one last time, anywhere in the world at any point. What's your fantasy combination here between car and track?
I'm going to say a dirt modified. Wish I would have had the opportunity to go to Syracuse on a mile, but I would say Oswego.
Do her up.
Nice.
You got the open motor.
Good pick. Good
Bring her on down.
Stranger things have happened, Travis. We'll see what happens.
Ooh, I like that. Stay tuned to that one. Thanks again, Todd, for coming on the show. Best of luck with the rest of the season, and hopefully this past Saturday won't be the only time I'm talking to you on a front stretch this season.
I hope not. Thank you very much, guys, for having me.
Cheers. That's Todd Gordon on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. The Southern Ontario Dirt Show is brought to you by Bicknell Racing Products. The last 40 years plus have seen Bicknell Racing Products grow to be an industry leader for racers and enthusiasts alike. Their St. Catharines location is home to 20,000 square feet of manufacturing and retail space, with a second store in Niagara Falls, New York, and a dealer network that continues to grow day by day to serve Southern Ontario, Western New York, and beyond. Bicknell Racing Products distributes Hoosier tires for much of Eastern Canada, New York, and even parts of Pennsylvania. BRP has everything you could need to keep your car performing at its peak, with genuine parts from the manufacturer. They even have a technical support line committed to helping you with the most up-to-date information and feedback from racers and crew chiefs. Have you ever thought about a career in the automotive or racing industry? Now is your chance to take the leap with Bicknell Racing Products. They are looking for CNC machine operators, welders, and more to join their team this season. Please send all resumes to Dana Curving at BicknellRacingProducts.com. That's DANA CURVIN at BicknellRacingProducts.com. For further information on Bicknell Racing Products and to find a dealer near you, visit BRP online at www.BicknellRacingProducts.com or on Facebook or at twitter.com/BicknellRacing. And joining us now on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast, I don't even know what to call this guy. The guy who taught me everything when it comes to broadcasting and announcing in motorsports. Steve Petty coming over, over the ditch via our podcast for a little talk about Ransomville and all things dirt racing from your side of the ditch. So welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks very much for having me on, guys. It's good to see you guys. It's been a while.
Yeah, been a while. We were supposed to have the chance to work together on Friday night at Ransomville, and of course, Mother Nature had other plans, as she has often had throughout the year. But for the most part, talk to us about the racing from Ransomville Speedway this year and what you've seen out of some of our Canadian guys who've made the trip over, and some of the homegrown talent as well.
Well, the first question is who can stop Matt Williamson in a 358 modified on either side of the border? That's pretty much the big one. Matty's been pretty dominant at Ransomville. But the racing has gotten better. The track surface, first couple of weeks, a little rough. Of course, Mother Nature, wet spring that we had over here on this side of the border. We were able to get it going, and track last couple of weeks been smooth and fast. And Travis, you can attest to that with the ESS there a couple of weeks ago. So actually, I forgot to mention, How was your first trip to Ransomville?
Oh, I loved it. Did my thing. Rolled the bottom. It was smooth, and it was kind of bottom dominant in the feature, but the heat race, it was top dominant, so it switched. But a little bit dusty. But other than that, I had a blast. It kind of felt like just like it looks like a bigger Merrittville, but just a little bit less of a D. But when I was sitting in 3 and 4, I had to get pushed off for the feature, and the bleachers are the same color. The tower almost looks the same. Kind of got that same swoop down the front straightaway. I can see how there's always sister tracks back in the day.
Just now a little bit of a moat, so it's basically kind of like Merrittville, but only we're up a little higher.
They really filled that in. That is what I know missed the most. Is I never got to run with the actual cliff that used to be there, insane moat dives from Danny Johnson and era stuff.
They filled in the moat and blocked off Kinzer Way, the the higher powers to be between the Outlaws and the All Stars, like, yeah, you got to fill that in. So like, okay, fine, I guess we'll do it. But
Yeah,
and they were to
I
get them on
agree.
the race, to get them to come here. Yeah, we'll fill the mode in. We'll block it off. We'll do what we have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
But yeah, the
mentioned.
racing. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say you mentioned the All Stars. Yeah, Ransomville's actually got a ton of big kind of shows on the board on top of your weekly schedule. So just tee us up, fill us in about if there's any fans who are close to the border and want to make the trip over, what some of the big dates to circle on the calendar from Ransomville are that you're most excited about, anyways.
Oh man, the big one, of course, July 7th, the All Star Circuit of Champions Sprint Cars are in town. Tyler Courtney, Chris Wyndham, and company will make the trip to the Big R. Defending race winner Parker Bryce Miller expected to be back in the house as well for that one. So that's always a good time. On July 7th, we have our Mackenzie Kaluza Mini Stock Memorial. On the 14th of July, we have our Blake Chafee Memorial. On the 21st, Blake is the brother of our pit steward, so we do that one, plus the Empire Street Stock Series there that night as well. Plus the other big one is on August the 22nd, the Big Block Modified Supercar Series and the Ron Martin Memorial Summer Nationals for the Big Blocks. Plus the Mike Mineski Memorial for the Sportsman the same night. So that's
Looking
going.
forward to
That is
that.
a champion. It's a championship series race for the Sportsman Supercar Series on the 22nd of August. So it's a big one.
That's huge. Looking forward to it. Wanted to ask you too. We had a guest on a little bit earlier in the year in Charlie Sandercock, and correct me if I'm wrong, but were you on the call for his big win? Was it down at Winchester? Were you a part of that rush, part of that tour for Rush?
I was part of the call. I was down in Victory Lane handling the Victory Lane interviews that night when Charlie won at Winchester Speedway. And it was, we think Maddie's party at Charlotte or Oswego the first time was pretty huge. Charlie's party at Winchester lasted way into Sunday morning.
Them Brighton boys know
Oh,
how to
yeah,
do
they
it.
do.
Boys and girls. Silly me.
Well, I guess we should also get into my debut on dirt because you were there to not only witness it, but you happened to be announcing
Yeah.
for it. And I had a
Oh
receiver and a
my.
helmet on, so I didn't hear too much of what you had to say, but I'm sure I hope you took pleasure in watching it because I had a blast from my seat, even though it wasn't the cleanest runs.
I was gonna say your first run wasn't too bad in a go kart. We got to get you back over and do it again. We have some big go kart races, so we have one coming up on Sunday, the 2nd of July. So don't have anything going on. Free admission on the grandstand side. Come on out. We run Thursday nights.
The big R, like, or the little R, like, it's thriving too. Like, I was noticing, I was trying to find his class on Race Monitor. His was one class not on there, but the two senior classes, they had like 13 carts in it, 2 heats, real deal.
I was gonna say we've been averaging about 86 carts a night.
Holy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Start at 7:15. We're done between 10 and 10:30, so it's not too bad. It's just like a Friday night show. We push it, get it in, get it out. Our starter is Greg Martin, who drives 358 Modified, and our race director is Ryan Susi.
Yeah, I know. Ryan's always talked about it. He loves doing that for the kids and all that. And good on him because it is a headache sometimes. I can attest to that. I've also helped out at go kart night at Merrittville, so I know how crazy it can get. But yeah, I want to throw it back. Like, tell us how, like, you've been a race fan your whole life, and then tell us like your first announcing gig, the whole spiel.
Oh, race fan my whole life. My first race, I was less than 2 weeks old at Holland Speedway. So
Nice.
that's
Yeah.
that's now 35 years. I just turned 35 in May. So basically, my whole life was there. And then my first announcing gig, other than with my Matchbox cars at the picnic tables at any racetrack my parents were working at the time, it was at Genesee Speedway my senior year of high school. I've been doing it ever since.
So what are all the tracks you've worked at?
Oh Lord, let's see. This list is a lot longer than the tracks I haven't worked at yet. But well, let's see. The asphalt.
Like,
The asphalt side: Holland, Spencer, Chemung, Lancaster. Currently, so there's the 4 asphalt tracks in New York. Dirt side: Ransomville, Merrittville, Humberstone, Genesee. Actually, got an asphalt track, Wyoming County, and Perry. So count for that one. And then I filled in with the BRP 360 late model series with Gary Montgomery. So I got to announce at Canandaigua a couple of times. And then Little Valley, McKean County in Pennsylvania, announced there. announced at Lake Erie, announced at Oswego for the Race of Champions one year. And
Nice.
let's see, did the Rush Series currently, and I was on the call for the last Sportsman Race on the Mile at Syracuse. So that was pretty fun working with
I remember that.
Tim Boss, Shane Andrews, and Dave Buchanan. So that was an absolute riot up there at the Mile.
Okay, yeah, I'm really jealous of you now, especially for the mile one. Oh my god.
Says the guy who's told me he's retiring from announcing today.
Well, not if they asked me to brought the Moody Mile back and asked me to announce there. I think I'd say yes to that gig.
I was gonna say if they brought the Mile back, yeah, let's go. You and I, Travis, we could tag team the Mile.
It like had a huge stair, like you had to climb for way up a bunch of stairs to get up to the tower.
I was gonna say up the bunch of stairs, walk on the roof on top of the grandstand, and then you got to drop down like a 20-foot ladder to get down into the press box level, and it swayed. So on a windy day at Syracuse, you were moving, and you were like, "Can you hang on to this thing, please?"
Oh my god! Yeah,
Oh,
I knew it was an ordeal to get in there.
But best view in the house, and I absolutely loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I know.
I think sometimes when we're announcing, it's really easy to almost forget the races that we're taking in because we just have to be so in the moment with our call, and you don't really get a chance to focus on, wow, that was a really great race at the end of the day. Or sometimes you forget the details that make something a great race. But do you have a race that you've called or a whole night that you've called at any particular track that stands out amongst any of the other ones that you've had a chance to do?
Well, let's see. I know one was the Super Dirt Series race at Merrittville when Ryan won from green to checkered. I was on the call with Clint Jeffrey that night. I remember that one because it was Ryan's first Super Dirt Series win, and that was a big one there. Of course, the last Sportsman Race on the Mile. I mean, I can't forget that one. I'll take that one to the grave and leave the day I die. There's that one. And then at Holland, Race of Champions, Andy Jankowiak, Patrick Emmerling coming to the start-finish line. Andy actually climbing the front stretch wall and taking down the flag stand.
Flag stand on the track? Starter on the track?
Flag stand starter was able to hang on. It was Steve Kellogg and Johnny Nelson up on the flag stand. And Johnny Nelson was hanging on to Steve Kellogg's ankles. That was how close it was from Steve falling onto the racetrack.
How do you handle that?
A whole bunch of alcohol afterwards.
No doubt. I know. What'd you say on the mic for that?
It was me and Dave Buchanan on the call, and Dave was taking it to the checkered, and I am pretty sure a couple of holy shits were said. Just saying. It just went flat out. That's what it was on the PA system. And I remember my boss, I was on my way down to do Victory Lane, and he was like, "You seriously said that?" I'm like, "Oh, what else were we going to say?"
Yeah. So you had to
go
down to Victory Lane,
like
there was the starter stand.
There, it was horrifying to see it, but just seeing that those two were okay, and I saw them walking around in the pits afterwards. It pretty much was like, okay, they're fine. We can count it down.
Then you can appreciate what a crazy thing you've just seen.
Yeah,
a lot better. Yeah.
So I'm, as someone who really, helped me get my feet wet and ultimately prepared me really well to be stuck on my own during the pandemic when you couldn't get back across the border to join me at Merrittville for the 2020 season. So I want to ask you now to kind of tell anybody else who either may be listening, who's into broadcasting, has thought about being in play-by-play for stock car racing or anything like that. What's the biggest thing you've learned from doing announcing at tracks and the biggest piece of advice you'd pass on to somebody?
Well, let's see. The biggest piece of advice really is just go out and talk to the tracks, be like, hey, I'm interested. Is there anything I can do? And just get your feet wet, even if it's from announcing the go-karts to just announcing like one heat race a night. Just get your foot in the door because you never know what's going to come from it. I mean, granted, I was pretty lucky. I had Mike Paz and Rick Mooney to help guide me along to get to where I am today. And it's pretty much just talk to the people that have done it a long time. I've had a lot of people I've worked with. There's a lot of people that I know and trust. I come to the business, and I've worked with both of you, and you guys are absolute right. We got to do it again sometime. Just saying.
When did Rick Mooney retire? Because he's not the Ransomville guy anymore. Now he's left his, and we are racing.
Rick ended up from full time at Ransomville at the end of 2021. He moved an hour further away from the racetrack.
Oh, he moved.
Yeah, he moved to the other side of Rochester. So it was the dry that's starting to get there, and wanted to spend more time with the wife, of course. So, and Rick's able to pick up. He's actually announcing most of the events at Spencer Speedway this year in Williamson, which is about 10 minutes from his house.
Gotcha. That's one track I've never been to. Been to Lancaster. I grew up at Lancaster.
So Rick's still around. Yeah, it's Williamson Spencer Speedway is on 104 before you get to Oswego. About an hour before you get to Oswego, if you take 104 all the way over.
Gotcha.
Nice. All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. From all the tracks that you've been to, what is if you're gonna create a new track to announce that? So I'm talking not just the actual racing product and the track conditions that put on a good show, but all the bells and whistles that we get to take advantage of, or maybe sometimes struggle through as announcers, depending on the setup. What combination of tracks are you building if you can create your dream facility?
My dream facility, okay, the sight lines from Syracuse,
Mm-hmm.
the banking from Fulton, the size of the track Brewerton.
How are you going to shape it?
Exactly like Brewerton.
So
give me the D-shaped dirt demon.
So basically Brewerton with more bank.
Brewerton with more banking.
Okay.
I like it.
I like that. That would be fun, actually. I think that would be that would make for a really great track, actually, I think.
And that's another track where motor wouldn't matter as much. Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could chance on the motor bill a bit. Yeah, all handling and driving.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's a good pick. I like that combination. All right, let's get you out of here on one last one for the Canadians who don't know much about racing across the ditch, and you're really only familiar with the guys from Merrittville or Ohsweken or Humberstone. Who are some of the names to watch, not necessarily right now, but even just coming up in the future of Northeastern dirt car racing that maybe you get the chance to watch more often at Ransomville or other facilities?
Oh, man. Well, one is Zach Sabatka. He just picked up his first big block win at Canandaigua. Yep. And I've seen Zach run at Ransomville a few times for the Sportsman. He's definitely up and coming up. Brett Senek's another one. 3-time Ransomville track champion. Derek Wagner's another one. Matt Farnham, we've seen him in a sprint car. He's ran modifieds. So basically put anything with Matt in it, and you'll seem to have a good, strong run. So, I mean, there's too many to count. Actually, and even in our 4 cylinders, we got guys moving up. We have Curtis Young, we have Rocco in Rich County, and we have Tyler Foster, who just turned 13 or 14 years old already, winning races. And we have all the kids that are running go-karts. They're just moving up through the ranks. So I get a lot of them.
Like, this is like Canandaigua more, but like, who's Alex Payne? And like, can you tell me the difference between all the Paynes? And like, I know one's like Mike Payne's son. Like, what's the deal? Can you tell me all that?
Okay. Mike's kid, actually, well, let's see. Mike's kid is Zach.
Yeah. Right. Zach.
Eldon Payne, his 2 kids are Alex and Kennedy.
Gotcha. Eldon Payne. That's who I was. Yeah. He always went to the mile and stuff.
Yeah. And then you have Steve Payne and then Steve's kid, Billy.
Yeah. I knew that one because their names are spelled differently, but the other 2 are spelled the same, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The other 2, P-A-Y-N-E, and then the Hurricanes with the I in the middle instead of the Y.
Okay. I'm set.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to hopefully working with you in the not too distant future coming up here. What is it? I think July 14th I'm scheduled to be over there at the Big R. So
I was going to say, I believe so. Either the 14th or the 21st, I think you're over here, and then
yeah.
And I'll see you guys on the other side of the ditch here in a few weeks.
For sure.
Sweet.
Can't wait. Stephen Petty from Ransomville Speedway, from tons of other facilities and great racing products just over the ditch in Western New York. Thanks for coming on the show. This is the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. And the checkered is out on another episode of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show presented by Ohsweken Speedway and Bicknell Racing Products. Like what you hear? Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with us on Facebook at Southern Ontario Dirt Show or find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SODS_pod. Have a question for the show? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com. Thanks for supporting local racing in Southern Ontario, and we'll see you at the track.